Welcome to highlights from the Spring Championship of Online Poker 2012. 40 events, $30 million in guaranteed money and more quality poker than you could shake several sticks at. This is where champions are made, and we're going to switch to some Omaha heads-up action today. 2,100 buy-in, 200k guaranteed, and the 236 runners would more than double the guarantee, 472k up for grabs, with 103,000 and change first prize. Our first semi-final, Paul G's 81 versus Shizzle Ness. So this will be fun. Chance to check out the four-card magic of Omaha. Both players start with 5,000. Paul G's 81 winning the early exchanges. We'll watch hand number 12. A couple of blockbuster starting hands for both players. And Shizzle Ness will 3-bet. Paul G's will 4-bet. Shizzle Ness will call, and that's a pretty decent sized pot given the stack sizes. Carnage on the right flop, and you thought that would be the right flop. Top two and a heart draw for Shizzle Ness. And the wrap for Paul G's 81. By the way, if you play the drinking game where you drink every time I miss an out during Omaha commentary, you will be on the floor inside of 2.5 minutes. It's up to you whether you want to play. Check, it goes on the flop. The player's getting a bit tricky. Maybe a little bit surprisingly, given their hands. Shizzle Ness will fire the safe turn. Paul G's still with top pair and that wrap draw. He will call, and we'll have 2,500 in the middle. And the board will pair. So nothing too much changes. Shizzle Ness with queens and tens. Still ahead in this one, and both players will check it back. So maybe slightly surprising that pot didn't get bigger, but 2,500 over to Shizzle Ness, and he'll take the chip lead. Now Paul G's came fourth in the horse event in the 2010 W Coupe. That's not his biggest cash though. His biggest is a Sunday Million win in January of last year, when he won over $250,000. Shizzle Ness, not a player that we know too much about. I suspect he might be a cash player. We know he plays a decent amount of heads up. And massive cooler flop, this one, isn't it? Bottom set, excuse me, for Shizzle Ness with the sevens. And the nut flush draw and top two for Paul G's. This is hand 34, and it could easily be the last hand. Although it's not a big pre-flop pot, so maybe they won't get all the money in here. Shizzle Ness will start by raising. Bottom set's always fun in Omaha, isn't it? You can hopefully detect the irony in my voice. That mixed feeling of, I've flopped something, but the chances of me getting it home are limited. Raise from Paul G's, call from Shizzle Ness. And the bingo turn card for Paul G's. Paul G's from Canada, Shizzle Ness from the Netherlands. So a Euro clash here with Paul G's slightly behind in chips, but way ahead in this hand. And does he try and get paid twice on the Turnham River? He does. And this is less fun for Shizzle Ness now. Out of position, and with a hand that may or may not be ahead. 2,500 in the middle. Two of diamonds doesn't change anything. For you Hold'em players who are dipping into a bit of Omaha, two cards from the hand, so a single diamond wouldn't get you a flush here, of course. Doesn't apply because Paul G's has those two diamonds. Has the nuts, and he will fire, and Shizzle Ness will pay off with the set. Tough spot for him. Easy for Paul G's to have been bluffing there, and sadly for Shizzle Ness not the case. So a big chip lead now, almost 8,000 to 2,000 as we jump on to hand 43. Double suited hand for Paul G's, and pretty nice rundown for Shizzle Ness. Certainly nice enough to see a flop in position. And he'll catch top pair. This is a big flop again, isn't it? Top pair with the little wrap for Shizzleness, and the straight draw and the flush draw for Paul G's. And Paul will go on the attack. You can imagine Shizzleness is putting the money in here. He is. Paul G's is committed. He calls it off. 4,000 in the middle, and Shizzleness needs to win this. He is the all-in player, or Paul G's will advance to our final. 4 of spades doesn't change anything. Paul G's needs to connect to win this. The 9 gives Shizzleness trip 9s, and also gives him the pot. And we'll play again, almost back to even. Well, this match will go on for some time with some pretty big swings. Shizzleness would actually come back to take a dominant chip lead over the next few hands, but then Paul G's would have a big double up to regain command. And the net output of that is that as we rejoin the action, well, they're almost back where they started. 164 hands of messing about, I think. 25-50 are the blinds, and even though it's a heads-up battle, as you can see, the scoop structure's still giving a lot of play to the players. This many hands into a heads-up match, and still with almost 100 big blinds each. And Paul G's will check this one. Hasn't flopped too much. Gut shot and a pair of 8s. Shizzleness not super strong either, but will fire. And Paul G's will make the call. Well, neither player has diamonds, but that does give Shizzleness top straight with the Queen 10. And he's going to try and work out how to get paid, whether he can get paid. And he decides to check back the turn. The 10 doesn't change who's got the best hand. Top straight for Shizzleness now with the King Queen. But will that check on the turn induce something from Paul G's? It will. He'll try and take this one down. It's obviously a pretty scary board. Tough for Shizzleness to call with, you know, bad 2 pairs and things like that. So Paul G's bluffs the river, but Shizzleness is able to call with top straight and wins that one. Hand 181 now. Shizzleness with the chip lead. Looked like he was going to be out of this quickly early on in the semi-final, but he's come back strong. Paul G's 3-betting the double-suited, garbagey type hand. Shizzleness calling on the button, neither with too much strength here. Paul G's with the initiative. And he will fire this flop. Has picked up a low diamond draw and a pair of 8s. Shizzleness picked up the slightly higher diamond draw and a pair of queens, so winning on both counts. And he calls the flop, and diamonds arrive. So both players with that flush. I can't imagine. Well, Paul G's may be able to get away from this. Or by get away, I mean not go broke. This is Omaha after all. But he's also heads up against an aggressive opponent. So this is not an easy situation for him. He'll call the turn bet. And 9 of clubs on the river. Paul G's has less than a pot size bet left. You'd have thought Shizzleness will try and get paid here. He's going to ask Paul G's the question. Tough spot for Paul G's. He does have the flush up against an aggressive opponent. Can he sniff this one out? He makes the call. You can understand why. He'll get the bad news. He's overflushed, which is a real thing. Shizzleness advances. Paul G's 81 is your semi-final loser, and he gets $33,000, so not a loser. Semi-final 2, Bridge to Pain versus KMPK90. And over the first 56 hands, Bridge to Pain would establish an advantage in control. As we, well, are you ever in control? Omaha heads up. He's as in control as you can be. He's got the advantage. 62 plays 3,700. And Bridge to Pain is a name that you might recognise. He actually knocked out Isildur in the quarterfinals of this event. Isildur with another cash in the scoop. Amazing series of events he's having. If you want to see his back-to-back victories, check them out on PokerStars TV right now. And Bridge to Pain actually bubbled the final table of the scoop main event in 2009. Lots of other big cashes on PokerStars in tournaments mainly. That's where you get your big cashes. KMP a K will bet this one. Bridge to Pain will call. And the 3 of hearts. Well, KMPK made a pair. He has his own impressive poker resume. Final table of Sunday Million in October last year. Not too long ago. Trying to overturn this chip deficit. Bridge to Pain's picked up the nut flush draw on the turn. And calls. And Queen on the river. Doesn't make anybody anything. Pair of 3s for KMPK. I don't think that's a value bet. Bridge to Pain has the best hand with a pair of 9s. And he will check raise. Well, KMPK's tried the bluff. It hasn't worked. He's been rebluffed. One of those funny spots in poker where Bridge to Pain is actually rebluffing him with the best hand. Good strong play, though. Bridge to Pain dominating the semi-final so far. 7,400 plays 2,600 there or thereabouts. Both players with double-suited hands, both with spades and clubs. KMPK 3 bets and Bridge to Pain defends. And both of them make top pair. Not a whole bunch else. Gut shot for Bridge to Pain. KMPK bets it. Bridge to Pain calls. Three on the turn. Well, KMPK was winning this hand anyway. He now makes 2 pair, which will make him a little bit happier about life. Bridge to Pain calls again. And KMPK has just under a pot-sized bet left. That's not a great card for Bridge to Pain. If he thought he could be in front on the turn, that card is not going to dissuade him of that information. And KMPK will try and get paid with his full house. And he does get called. So Bridge to Pain. Board didn't run out well for him there. Didn't dissuade him that he had the best hand. And he ends up doubling up KMPK. And we've got a whole new match on here. Bridge to Pain's been ahead for some time in this heads-up match. Now almost even stacks. This is hand 137 of the second semi-final. It's a $2,100 PLO heads-up event. And Bridge to Pain with the aces. Picks up a cheeky little gut shot to go with them. KMPK has the flush draw and a pair. Bet and a call on the flop. And the 8 of clubs doesn't change either hand. So interesting spot for KMPK here. Does he keep the aggression going? Well, he will. You'd be surprised if any of the players that got to semi-final of this event weren't extremely aggressive. And that's what we're seeing. Bridge to Pain with the check raise. With his aces and 8s. Well, KMPK might give this one up. He does have the flush draw. The board is paired. No, the exact opposite of giving this one up. He's going to go to the next level of aggression. As I was saying, you'd expect strong play, and that is strong play. KMPK representing a lot more strength than he held. Was doing it with some outs, with some cover. But nice, strong play from him. Allowing him to stay even in this match. Just a little chip deficit right now. This is hand 186. This one's really gone back and forth. A straight draw for bridge to pain on this really innocuous looking flop. KMPK with a whole bunch of overcards that have nothing to do with the flop. Has the initiative though, and it's a pretty dry board, so he will fire. Bridge to pain will call. 1300 in the middle. Well, no sevens in the nearby vicinity. Bridge to pain does have a flush draw now to go with his straight draw. But still no hand. Ace high. Well, everyone's got a pair of sevens. But the ace kicker of KMPK is winning at the moment. He'll bet, and he can't get rid of bridge to pain. I'm sure he would have taken a fold right there. And the jack finally makes somebody something. KMPK with jacks and sevens. The much unloved sequel to the Jackson 5, actually. Just can't improve on perfection. That was the problem there. Bridge to pain is going to bluff this. He's played to try and either make a hand or take this pot away. He's now going to try and do it. And I think KMPK, well, it's a big decision, but he may well be able to find a call. And he does. Nice read from him. That jack made him something finally on the river, and his aggressive opponent got picked off on that one. So a complete reversal of stacks from when we first joined this action. Not unusual, of course, in a heads-up match between two aggressive, good, strong players. But KMPK now has the upper hand, trying to put bridge to pain away and advance to the final. And, well, it's a pretty big flop for him, isn't it? Does flop the flush and straight draw. He will check. Bridge to pain has a bigger flush draw and top pair. Not oftentimes the 8-high flush draw is the bigger one, but that's the case here. And I think bridge to pain will have to commit his money. That is what happens. KMPK will call, and we could have a resolution here. Well, actually, bridge to pain has a little bit of money left over, but it's going in. That's the bottom line. 4,300 in the middle. KMPK trying to win this one. His flush draw is no good, which will be distraught to see, but the straight draw works. That 6 of clubs could win it for him. 8 of diamonds is no change, and KMPK will scoop this one. Bridge to pain out as a semi-final runner-up, $33,000. And our final will be between Shizzleness and KMPK 90. Two players who look really strong, aggressive, solid players in their semi-finals. And we'll start the final watching. This one should be fun. Hand number 8, 10-20 blinds. I can tell you that a deal was discussed. KMPK proposed 80k each, and the rest of the money and the prize watch and the glory to the winner. And Shizzleness replied, "No, I play heads up for a living." So there they are. That is like a virtual slap. So we are playing for it all. 103,800 will be your first place money. 66,000 your second place money. And let's jump into this one. We've reached the turn. Shizzleness has picked up the flush draw, but KMPK has the nut flush draw, and as you can see, in a dominant spot in this pot. Small pot so far. They do start the final with 250 big blinds each, which is a lot of play. Bet and a call on the Queen of Hearts turn. And the ace gets KMPK home. He'll check it over. Shizzleness will decide to check back. See if his queen is worth anything. It is worth nothing. KMPK takes a small early lead. He would maintain that through hand 35. KMPK raising on the button. And a 3-bet from a strong connected hand from Shizzleness. KMPK will call. I can neither confirm nor deny that after he said I play heads up for a living, Shizzleness typed faux shizzle in the chat box. Try and get that confirmed for you. Big flop for him. Top 2 and diamonds. It's almost too big a flop, isn't it? Because you sort of think, what can the other fella have to pay me with? Well, KMPK does have a diamond draw himself. Betting a call on the flop. And the 5 of clubs pairs the board, brings a club draw, which neither of them have. Shizzleness will keep firing with top 2. And does K and PK want to continue? No, didn't have too much of a hand, didn't want to do anything creative, and he'll let Shizzleness have one. And he'll take the chip lead. Pretty much even Stevens in hand 39. No huge pots yet, not too much of a surprise given how much play there is. And neither player connecting strongly with this ace-high flop. KMPK will bet. And Shizzleness will attack. Has a gut shot and a pair of 5s. What more do you want? KMPK will stick it right back to him. It's a kind of polarizing flop, isn't it, with no suit draws and ace high on it. And KMPK does not believe Shizzleness had too much. He was absolutely right. And this early dance of chip lead passing will continue. KMPK now with a tiny advantage. Hand 46. Shizzleness will raise, and KMPK, not too bad a hand, decides just to flat call. And Shizzleness has made 2 pair top and bottom. KMPK with the tiny flush draw, a couple of overcards and a gut shot. There, that's all your outs called. That won't happen very often. Shizzleness bets. KMPK will attack, seems reasonable. He's got a strong hand on this flop. Shizzleness will just flat call with top and bottom. Doesn't want to get too carried away. A lot of cards on the turn. Could be scary. Well, the 4 of diamonds is interesting because it gives KMPK a bigger straight draw than he had. Still, Shizzleness is 2 pair technically ahead, even if he's behind marginally on the equity front. KMPK bet. Shizzleness just calls. 1600 in the middle. And the 6 of hearts is one of KMPK's outs. Makes the baby flush draw. Makes the baby flush as his draw comes in. We'll just check it. Didn't want to bet and get raised there. And Shizzleness will check down the 2 pair and see that he couldn't quite get them home. KMPK will win this one. And he's up over 6,000. The most significant gap of this heads-up final so far. They're playing for the Scoop title in event number 12. And they're also playing for the small banner of around about $36,000 between first and second. KMPK flops 2 pair with 10s and 4s. Tiny pot this one, nothing for Shizzleness on this flop. So he will bet and try and win it with nothing. Lunacy. Never works. Call from KMPK. And a slightly better two pair for the Polish player. Shizelness still with Nutton. And he will check this one back. And the 10 of spades makes KMPK a very nice looking full house. Now, those of you that have watched these shows before will know they're highlight shows. I've got a feeling in my water. Something's going to... You see? I knew it. Something has happened. Naked aggression from Shizelness. He will make the bluff raise on the river. Either that or it's an incredibly thin value bet with a king. That was a joke, it's not. KMPK can raise again. And you imagine that's the end of things. Shizelness is really going to get crazy. Good, strong, creative play from Shizelness on the river there. It just happened to run into a really big hand. Doesn't help his stack, though. He's down to 3,300. But we're still at the early blind level, so plenty of time for him to come back. I mean, he's still got well over 100 big blinds. That's why you've got to love the scoop. Wouldn't be the case. Even in a heads-up tournament, you normally wouldn't get this much play. King's on the flop. And KMPK will attack the Shizelness continuation bet. And Shizelness will 3-bet pretty quickly. Do you fancy playing Heads Up Omaha with either one of these players for money? Probably not the best thing you could do with your spare cash. Look at this. Just naked aggression on this King-King 5 flop. Neither player believing that the other has anything. They're both right, incidentally. Shizelness blinks first. I mean, he's allowed to with 8 high and facing a 4-bet. That seems fine to me. Hand 66. Shizelness trying to turn the tide in this one. KMPK, the Polish players, had the upper hand for quite a few hands now. And this could help him. Shizelness makes bottom set. KMPK with top 2 on this 8-7-3 flop. Shizelness a 3-1 favourite to win this one if they just ran it. It's a small pot at the moment. And you've seen the level of aggression on the flop the last couple of hands. So now that they both actually have something, it'll just go back cool. Why wouldn't it? Funny old game. 264 chips in the middle. KMPK still second best with 8s and 7s. Shizelness will fire again. KMPK will call. And that is a bingo. No extra prizes for Shizelness for making quads. Just like feels 3% better about himself or something. We'll see what it does to his chances of getting paid. He bets 480 on the river. And KMPK, who's taken this conservative line, nice line, I think, with 8-7, and against his aggressive opponent. He's going to pick off a lot of bluffs there, but not on this occasion. Shizelness has the goods and then some. Hand 81, KMPK still with the chip lead, a little bit closer after that quads-based action. Shizelness with a big hand here. KMPK not so much, but he has the button, and we'll see a flop, and that's a massive flop, isn't it? Straight for KMPK, and gut shot nut flush draw, pair, almost everything for Shizzleness. Just a bet and a call, though, on this super coordinated board. Two of hearts is the slightly awkward stranger at the party. Nothing to do with the other three. KMPK still ahead. He will bet. Tough to get these non-nut straights home to the river, isn't it, in Omaha, when you flop them. 1,774 in the middle after the call from Shizzleness. And the 10 doesn't actually change things. KMPK straight still, but it does possibly change things because he may not bet now. Yeah, exactly. He decides to check it down. And so Shizzleness saves some money on the river there. KMPK re-establishes his chip lead. We've been here before. We're now got a 30 chip big blind, so Shizzleness under 100 big blinds, but not by much. Plenty more swings to come in this final, you'd suspect. Shizzleness ahead on this board. He's got a gut shot, a pair of sevens, flush draw. I mean, if you don't play Omaha and you're spotting a theme, you almost always have a gut shot. Like, when you don't have a gut shot on the flop, you've sort of failed, really. Bet and a call. Shizzleness with the flush draw. And, yes, a gut shot. And he's hit it. 6 makes his straight. KMPK. It's a little bit unlucky for him, isn't it? Because he actually has the sevens as blockers to the very straight, or one of the straight Shizzleness actually has. So Shizzleness doesn't get extra points for having 2 straights, by the way. The 6 carder is not valid. The KMPK may not be done with this just because he does hold the 2 sevens. He decides to flat call. He does have position. A lot of things could happen on this turn. Well, one of them is that Shizzleness makes a flush. He now has 2 straights, a flush, and a pair of sevens. Only the flush counts. Annoying, really. You want to spread them over several hands. He will fire the river and try and get pay on this flush. And KMPK will fold. He did make 2 pair on the river, but figured his opponent wasn't bluffing. He was absolutely right. Nice spot for Shizzleness. He's closed the gap a bit. 20, 40 blinds in hand, 120. Slowly inching up. A really high quality final, as you'd expect, of this tough heads-up field. Another fun flop for you. Shizzleness with the straight draw and bottom 2 pair. And KMPK with the set. Bottom 2 pair is awful in Omaha. I would like all the money back that I've lost with it. Could that be arranged? I presume a top person's just scurried away to work on that. That's generally how it works over here. Shizzleness bets and immediately gets raised by KMPK with middle set. Shizzleness will flat call with aforementioned bottom 2 pair and the straight draw. And immediately hits the straight draw. Gin card for him. KMPK with the set that's no longer any good. Nice spot for Shizzleness because he doesn't hold the 6-4 too often, does he? So every chance that KMPK is going to lose a decent amount of money here. Shizzleness calls the turn. And the 4 of clubs, well, that may limit KMPK's losses. We will see. Shizzleness no longer has the best straight possible, but when his opponent checks over to him, can be pretty confident that he's good. He will fire, and it's a tough one for KMPK. He does make the call. He's going to get the bad news that, well, it wasn't even the river card. The turn did for him, and that's a big pot, huge pot in this heads-up final. Swings things over to Shizzleness. What an amazing card that was for him to catch on the turn. And as expected, the stack's going back and forth in this one. KMPK losing that big pot. Staying aggressive, though. 5s and 3s, the double-paired hand. Not a particularly great one, though. He does 3-bet. It's a nasty spot for him because the ace-high is going to allow him to keep being aggressive, but actually Shizzleness has caught, well, 3-pair. Shizzleness thinking about this as to whether flat call or to try and get KMPK's money in. He goes for plan B. He's not going to be successful, though. KMPK burns a few more chips, and this is getting serious now. KMPK down to 1,500 as we watch hand at 143. Needs to stop the bleeding quickly. Under 40 big blinds now. Well, that'll help. Flops trips. Shizzleness with 2-pair and the diamond draw. So we could see some action here. KMPK will bet the flop. Shizzleness will call. Well, when it's not going for you at Omaha, it just doesn't go for you. Shizzleness makes a full house on the turn, and just no reason for KMPK to fear that card, really. Impossible for him to know that for the second time in significant pots, the turn has allowed his opponent to overtake his big hand. Shizzleness will raise, and you got to fear for KMPK 90 here. Tough to see how he doesn't go broke. If the money goes in, he does have some outs. He decides to just flat call, presumably thinking that his opponent's bluffing a decent amount of the time. 1190 in the middle. Shizzleness is going to go for the win here. I'd be very surprised if this wasn't the end of this tournament. Shizzleness holding the full house. KMPK with trip kings and top kicker. And yeah, in goes the money. Shizzleness is going to be your champion. You've got to feel a bit sorry for KMPK on those last couple of hands. Had big hands, but this is Omaha and he didn't have the biggest. Shizzleness is the man in the Pot Limit Omaha heads-up event. Shizzleness wins $103,800 for the Dutch player. Played really, really well. Good aggressive stuff. You'd expect that in the PLO tournament of this quality. KMPK from Poland is in second. Bridge to Payne and Paul G's joint third place with $33,000. Hope you enjoyed this trip into Omaha heads up. The roller coaster game. Strap in if you ever want to play it. Lots more from Scoop 2012 coming. We've only scratched the surface, building to that big main event. Several more fun events for you along the way. Keep it right here on PokerStars.tv for all the highlights that matter. Until next time, take lots of care.